Today, I would like to leave a quick review of One Simple Idea by Mitch Horowitz. The book goes into the detail of the New Thought movement, which is sometimes called self-help movement or motivational speaking, I guess is a term some people use for it. Make people quickly identify what the subject is. It's represented by folks like today, Anthony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, those kind of guys. Although Vaynerchuk may be somewhat on the fringe of this, but still, in general, that gives a good idea of the kind of people I'm speaking about. Well, with One Simple Idea, Mitch Horowitz goes into history and he tells the history of this genre, which is a distinctly American genre. This was born and raised here in the United States. The idea that positive thinking and an optimistic spirit can actually affect your life in a positive way. It's something that some people still find questionable today, which is actually kind of interesting to me, because simply if you can engender yourself with an attitude that I'm just going to keep trying and trying, then just by the law of averages, you increase your chances of success just because you're going to try more. But regardless, the book goes into the history of this movement, and it goes into the finer points of the philosophy, and it addresses the research, the reliable research that has been done into the movement. Because without a doubt, there have been outrageous claims in this movement. I actually was not fully aware of them. Tony Robbins, as I tell people all the time, discovering Tony Robbins when I was about 15 years old or so was a life-changing experience for me. I didn't really get into him until a little later, but regardless, I would not have had any of the success that I've had in life, and I think I probably would be a total wreck if it hadn't been for Tony Robbins. So I absolutely have a biased attitude towards these subjects, but regardless, I've rambled a little here. There are reasonable criticisms, to say the least, of the movement. For instance, apparently in the early days of the movement, they would essentially tell you that it was all in your mind, and if you got cancer, it was your fault, something going on in your mind. And if you just got your mind right, then you would cure the cancer. And there's obviously huge problems with that idea, both in terms of just accuracy, but also in terms of moralizing disease and blaming the victim in a way that is not at all healthy or productive. So Horowitz picks those things apart, but then keeps those aspects of New Thought that do have some research foundation to suggest that they are legitimate. That is something that often gets written off by critics of New Thought. Anytime evidence is brought forward, it's just poo-pooed on its face simply because it's supporting New Thought, and there are many people who reject that on what seems to me to be an ideological and emotional level rather than a rational one. So Horowitz is skeptical but fair, very fair. He tears apart what has no support in terms of research or even just a coherent philosophical perspective, but he also defends those aspects of New Thought which have been shown to be effective. So in that aspect, the book is terrific. And as a historical book, it is a great book. It's also useful because at the end of each chapter, he has practical tips that you can use from the New Thought movement, things to better yourself and to better your life. I think they are ideally suited for those who have never tried anything in the New Thought movement. I think it would be great for people to give that a whirl, and they might be surprised at what they discover. That trying these things, even if it's just giving you a little extra belief in the short term, they do have effect. I can speak for that personally. And Mitch does, I mean, he ultimately, this book is saying that New Thought is a functional and realistic aim. One needs to be skeptical when going into this world because it's full of a lot of charlatans, lies, and unintended exaggerations. But it is still ultimately a worthwhile practice, and Mitch ends up supporting it, but in a balanced way. So you can read this book without being persuaded, I think, by Horowitz's perspective. He keeps things as objective as a person can be reasonably expected to be. I'm not a real big believer that absolute objectivity is actually a thing in people. I think it's something that people claim to increase their prestige, but I'm not buying it. And I don't think Mitch would claim that he was unbiased either. I mean, Mitch is a practicing occultist, and in many ways, the occult is just kind of New Thought, positive thinking on steroids, really. So, yeah, so the book works great, both as a historical text and as a practical one with some useful ideas in there, and a way to really separate the wheat from the chaff when it comes to the people who have influenced this movement, who continue to influence this movement, and those who are offering useful tools as opposed to those who are probably overselling a little bit, or a lot in some cases. I mean, there's no doubt that there's actual absolute charlatans and bad people in this field. Regardless, I definitely recommend this book if you like history, or if you're looking for something to improve or change your life. Either way, or both, I think you'll definitely get something out of it. Mitch Horowitz is the man. He always puts out good material. I've never read anything of his that wasn't high quality. So that's all I have to say. Check it out.